Hello guys, welcome back to our Java programming tutorial. In this video, we're going to discuss about the arrays and strings in Java and what are their features and different usages. So we have a lot of new examples, so let's get started. Do the array first. So an array are a kind of object that can hold multiple values at the same time. To declare an array, type first the data type, and then the open and close square bracket, and then the name of your array object, then the equal sign and the keyword new, and then the data type again, and then the open and close square bracket again, then the size of the array, which is I specify it as 5. So the array now can hold 5 integer values at the same time. Okay, so to access specific values inside the array, we can use what we call the indexing. So an index, it means that you are pointing to a specific element inside an array. So you can specify using the location from 0 to the length of the array minus 1. So it means that if you have an array of 5, the first element is located in the index 0, and the last element is located in the index number 4. So for example, let's get the value, the first value, and put it in the variable num1. Okay, so I use the index 0 inside the open and close square bracket. And then let's get the last value, which is located in the index 4. Okay, so yeah. Okay, then let's output these values using the print line. So num1 and num5. Okay, so there you go. So if we run this, okay, so we have a value of 0 and 0 because currently we don't have any value being put in the array. It's just that we have an empty container of integer array. So all of number types will be initialized into 0, whether it is a double, float, or integer. So in this case, the myArray container initialized to 0. So let's clear this first and put some values in our array. So to add a value, you can type the name of the array, then open close square bracket, then the index. Okay, so I put the value 67 in the first element, and then the negative 90 in the second element. The third element has 0 value. The fourth, or the third element, or the fourth. Okay, so it is index 3, and the last is 734. Okay. Now, to access the actual value, you need to do the same. So, myArray then access the value using the index number. So, in this case, let's say 1 and 3. So, our output should be negative 90 and 236. So, that is how you put or initialize your array in the Java. Okay, so let's clear this first for next example. Okay, so to access all of the elements inside the array, you can use the for loop. So you can remember the for loop that we have discussed in the control structures part 2. So we are using for loop. So for int I is equals to 0, then I is less than myArray that length. So length is a property of an array object which returns the current length of the array. So as you can see, I use the less than sign so that it will not reach the value of 5. It's just less than 5, which is 4. Okay, then let's increment the I. So I plus plus. And then let's print out the values inside the array using our counter variable, which is the I. So the value is my array, and then put the I inside the open and close square bracket to access individual values. So if I run this, you can see that we printed all of the values. Okay, so what if we put a value inside an array that beyond the size of the array? So let's say my array 5 is equal to 673. So if I run this, we're going to have an error, runtime error java.lang.array index out of bounds exception, because we specify in our declaration of the array that this array will only contain 5 integers. Now we are accessing values that do not belong to the array, which is the index 5. So index 5 corresponds to the location of the value in the location number 6. Okay, so let's comment this first for other examples. Okay, so now we can initialize the array using our input class. So let's create a prompt for the user. So let's say enter a value. And then we can assign the value inside the array using our counter variable I, and then equals input that next int. And then in the lower part, let's create another for loop to print the contents of the array. So let's use the j variable. Actually, you can reuse the variable I because it is localized in the upper for loop. Okay, so the same condition, j is less than my array.length, then j plus plus. Okay, then let's write again the output. So the value is, so my array, this time the counter variable is j. Okay, so let's run. So enter a value, number 8, 4, 5, 90, 23. Okay, so we have entered the value in the array and printed all of them using the for loop. Okay, so let's clear this first for next example. So let's say you want to compute the grade of the students and you want to maintain all of those grades in a array, which is type of double. So double grades is equal to new double, then let's say 5 grades, and we're going to compute the average of all of those grades. So again, looping. So I is less than grades that length, I plus plus. Okay. So it is important to have a prompt for the user to, so that you can guide the user whatever you want the user to do. So let's say enter a grade. Okay. Then put it in the array. So grades I is equals to input that next double. Okay. So this is the collection of grades. So let's comment this collecting of grades. In the lower portion, we need to compute the average. So let's declare an average as 0, and then another for loop to handle the computation of the average. So grades at length, again we're using the array grades, and then summarize or compute all of the grades and store it first in the average. So grades, it means that average is equals to average plus grades. So whatever the initial value of the average will be added. And then let's compute the average. So average is equal to average divided by grades dot length. So the grades dot length is equals to 5. So let's output. Okay, so the average is average. So let's run. So let's type 98.78, 75.60, 88.90, 70.89, and 80.80. Okay, so the average is 80.994. Now, if you look at our code, maybe we can reduce the code because we have the average here and we can compute it while it is inputting inside the first for loop. So let's put the average here at the top and then collect the average. So let's copy this code. Right, so then access the value in the grades and then remove the another for loop. Okay, so that's it. So we remove the another for loop and okay, so enter again the grades. Okay, so 90.78, 67.90. Okay, so the average is 0.96. Okay. Okay, so that's it. That is the example using the double. So let's clear this again and let's use now the string. String array names is equals to new. Okay. So I'm using here what we call the initializer list. So it means that you can initialize the values of an array in the declaration of that array. So using the open and close curly brace. So without using the new, you can create an object of array. So let's say I have 4 names. Let's initialize John Doe, Susan Baker, Henry the Fourth, and Mike. Okay. So I have an array of names, which is 4. So by default, whatever values you have put in the initializer list will be the current length of the names. So I have initialized it to 4 strings. So now the names have a length of 4. Okay, so let's process this. So again, we're using the for loop. And then, okay, so names, not length. Okay. So let's try to output these names first. Okay, so as you can see, it's almost the same in the processing of different data types using the strings and doubles. You can also do the initializer list using a different value. Let's say for an integer, you want to initialize it all to -1. You can do something like this. Okay. So without the keyword new and the type and the open and close square bracket. Now let's run this. Okay, so we have the names. Okay, so what can we do with these names? So let's say string names equals to names. So let's access the last element, which is in the index tree. And then let's output. So the same as in the integer and double. So now, so let's expand this example. So let's say this is the name of your students and you want to uh, create a graphical bars for each of the name. So let's say I have a string of bars. Okay, no, it should be integer. So int array bars equals to, so let's say for John Doe, we have 8 bars, and Susan Baker 12, Henry the Fourth is 5 bars, and Michael Mike will have 15 bars. Okay, next, let's do the printing. So let's remove this for loop, or we can use this. We can reuse the for loop here. So let's print the name is, and then the name, and then let's enter another for loop inside the loop to iterate for each of the bars. Okay. So let's print asterisk, and then a new line for each name. So let's delete this first. Okay, let's run. All of them have 4. Okay. So because I use the length, so not it should not be the length but the contents of the bars, which is we can access by open and close square bracket. No, not J. We use I because bars and names have the same length. They have 4 elements. So each name will be okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so name is John Doe. So John Doe has 8 asterisks or bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Susan Baker has 12, Henry the Fourth has 5, and Michael Mike has 15. Okay. Okay, so that is the example of arrays. Now let's discuss about the strings in Java. So an string is like an array or a sequence of characters. So it is a group of characters put together, and that is a string. So it means that you can use this array notation to manipulate a string. So let's say we have a string, name is also John Doe, and since a string is an object, there are a lot of methods inside the string that we can use to manipulate the string. So let's explore some of them. So as I said, the string can be manipulated using an array notation. So it means that the J is in the location 0, and so let's comment this one. Okay, so the J is in 0, the O is in the index 1, the H is in N, the H is in location 2, 3, and then the space is in 4th index. Okay, so something like that. Okay, so just ignore the comma. Okay. So it means that you can access individual characters inside the array using inside the string using the array notation by accessing their individual index. So let's look at what method we might use for doing that. Okay, so if you type the name or the object of string, which is name, and then click the dot, so you can see that there's a pop-up that lists all of the methods that you can use. So let's select one first. You can explore some of them, but I will going to discuss some of the methods in this string. So let's say we want to get the character inside the name. So let's say name that we can use the method char at and then specify the index that you want. So just put the index number. So let's say we want to get the index, the character in the index 2, which is letter H. Then let's output. Let's see if we can access that particular variable. So if we run this, okay, so the value is H. So we get the character in the string name. Now let's look at the other methods. You can also iterate in a string on each individual character. So a string has also a length property, which returns the current length of the string. So let's say I have a for loop here, and then let's output character by character. So let's let's use a print only. Then name that char at, then the index, which is I. Okay, let's run. Okay, so it messed up our output. So let's comment them and run. Okay, so John Doe. So but you shouldn't do that because if you want to manipulate individual character, you can do a for loop. But if you want to print the string, you should do it straightforwardly using the string or the variable name, okay, rather than using it inside the for loop. But if you want to manipulate every character, you can do the for loop. Okay, let's delete this first and let's create another example. Okay, so one of my favorite method is the substring. So substring will get the string inside the larger string. So let's say you want to get the word Doe in the name John Doe. You can do using the substring method. Okay, so let's declare another variable string. Name is also name that substring. Then it says that the parameter should be begin index and end index. So the beginning index is in index 0 for J. So if we count it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So D is in index 5. And then end index is 5, 6, 7. So 7. So let's print the X. So system.out.print okay, X. So it's just D and O, not E. So what happened? Okay, let's put 8. Okay, so there you go. So maybe we can look at the description of the substring. So in the substring, so let's look at the parameters. There's a description here. So begin index, the beginning index inclusive, and the end index, the ending index exclusive. So it means that when we put 7, it just means less than 7. So we just get index 5 to index 6 because it excluded the 7. So now if we put value 5 and okay, so 7, so it excludes the character E. so which is in the index 7. So if we put 8, so it will exclude the 8, which is will cause an error because the current size of the string is just 8, and there's no value in the index 8. But since it is excluded, we have no error here. So there you are. That's a substring. Now let's use another one. So we have here is the trim. So trim removes the trailing and trailing spaces before and after the string. So if you put spaces here in the Jandol name, let's print this first. Name. So just like before and after. So after trim, okay, so we use the method trim. So if we run this, okay, so the first output has spaces here and here, but the print out with the trim method removes those spaces. Okay, so another example here. So let's look at some of the methods. So let's look at some exciting methods here in the array. Okay, so let's look at the starts with. So as you can see, starts with is like a question, and the return is a boolean, so whether it is true or false. So let's remove this first and let's look. So name that starts with, and then the prefix. So let's say J. So it will state if it will return if it is true or false if the name starts with letter J. So let's print out a message. It starts with J. Else means false. So let's type not. So let's remove the trailing spaces here. Okay, so obviously the name John Doe starts with J. Now let's change it. Okay, so it's now not because I changed the J to letter K. Okay, sorry. So if there's a starts with, there's also what we call the ends with. So it looks at the end. If it looks if the character ends with a particular group of strings. So let's say this name ends with O and E. Okay, so let's change this. Okay, then run. Okay, it ends with O and E, so it is true. But if not, let's say letter P, instead of though it checking is Paul, it's the output is not. Now, how about the letter D is in lowercase format? So let's say lowercase d. Okay. Okay, so here. So it is comparing the end of character. Okay, so the output is not because ends with and starts with compares the string character by character. So a different character is uppercase D is different from the lowercase d. So let's try another example here. So here we have the split. It returns a string. So replace. Okay, so let's use the replace. So replace means that it will going to replace whatever character you specified in the first parameter with the second parameter. So let's say let's remove all of the letter O. So let's say O. So let's change all of the O with letter X. So let's output the value of X. Okay, so now the John Doe become JXHN and DXE. Okay, um, so we can use also the to lowercase to convert the string from lowercase to uppercase and vice versa. So to lowercase and to uppercase. So these methods are important if you are manipulating strings. Okay, so here is the output. So this is the all lowercase and this is all uppercase. So that is the arrays and strings in Java. We just covered some basic examples here. That's it. So if you have any question, please feel free to comment it below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and to keep up to date on these tutorials. See you.